And welcome to Sports on Tap. I'm your host, Rob Troutman. We have Josh, Jeffy, Sean Duffy, Ed, Dick joining us here today. And guys, we have a jam-packed show. We're going to first go over some game recaps from each of our conferences. And then at 8 o'clock, we're jammed with interviews as we have Highland quarterback Aaron Filips joining us at 8. At 8:15, we have Avon quarterback Sam DeTillio. And then at 8:30, we have Lakewood Rangers head coach Thome joining us. And guys, welcome back. Week 3 in the books here.
Good week of ball. Now we're starting getting the conference play for some conferences, and still getting it and still working the non-conference in. But this is things are starting to take shape a little bit here, and certainly looking forward to the guests there tonight, especially Coach Thome with a 3-0 Lakewood squad. So that's really good start for the Rangers this year, which we'll talk about here shortly.
Yeah, some of the teams, especially when you look at teams like, Parma getting off to a good start this year and Lakewood and, Valley Forge continuing. I mean, there's some teams in there that, especially Lakewood, winning at Bay and having a big comeback win last week. So, they've been solid so far, and excited to talk to Thome and see how they're exactly turning it around. Going into the Great Lakes Conference, I think definitely helped them and get their team to believe so far early on in the season. But without further ado, Josh, Jeff, you want to start us off in the GCC, the Greater Cleveland Conference?
What is up, everyone? How's everyone doing on this fabulous Tuesday? It's weird doing this on a Tuesday, although it feels like a Monday, but we're just going to go with it. Now, in terms of the Greater Cleveland Conference, Week 3 was not the best for the conference. As a whole, the conference went 2-4 with some surprising games, I would say. But we're going to start off. This one was very close in the beginning. Actually, 2/3 of the game was pretty close. Stowe and Solon. Now, this game late in the third quarter was within 2. Solon was down 30-28. Then all of a sudden, Stowe reeled off 20 straight points to actually end up winning this game 50-28. Solon drops to 1-2 on the year. Stowe improves to 3-0, and they keep rolling with their season. Strongsville picked up a solid victory, 37-21 over Brecksville. Quarterback Maddox Beard in this one had 2 touchdown passes, of one of 59 yards, the other 50. He also added a rushing touchdown in this game. Strongsville does improve to 2-1. Brecksville drops to 0-3. In one of the tightly contested matchups of the conference, this past week was Highland and Brunswick. Highland escapes with a 28-23 over Brunswick. Brunswick's defense actually came to play early on in this game, actually causing 3 turnovers within the first 4 drives of Highland. But Highland was just nitty-gritty like they've been all year, and they stuck it out, and they came through with a big win. For Brunswick, Conan Sam had 6 receptions for 100 yards. Ethan Fritz finally put together a decently good passing game, 16-31 for 254 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. For Brunswick, you got to hope that kind of opens up over the next few weeks. The passing game kind of improves for them, because without that threat of a passing game, the running game defenses are just going to collapse on the running game, and that's going to cause problems for Brunswick. But they will be able to try to get on the winning end this coming Friday when they will host Toledo Waite. We'll go over the rest of the schedule in the GCC a little bit later. Medina keeps it rolling, 35-0 over in-county rival Wadsworth. Medina improves to 3-0. Wadsworth drops to 1-2. Now, you could give the Player of the Week nominee to probably Drew Aller every week. We had him on last week. Awesome interview that we had. Just an all-around good kid. He actually set the county record in this one for most career touchdown passes. He passed up former Brunswick quarterback Darian Miskowitz. He tied it at 55 touchdowns, actually added 2 more the rest of the evening. So he's got a total of 57, and that's sure to be added onto as we head into the season. So Medina with a 35-0 victory. Euclid still has yet to get on the winning schneid this year. They dropped a pretty tough game to Cleveland Heights, 46-14 in this one. One of the scores came from Rich Buchanan of Euclid. He had a 19-yard TD reception. and that was the only score in the first half for the Panthers. They can only muster one other touchdown later on in the game. Cleveland Heights improves to 3-0. Again, Euclid drops to 0-3. Now, before the week started, probably the play of the game, or the game of the week, I should say, was St. Ed's against Mentor. This was far, if you're a Mentor fan, this was far from the game of the week. St. Ed's hands Mentor its worst loss since 2016. They lose 47-7 in this one for Mentor. They were without 3 offensive starting linemen for themselves, and Jacob Snow actually left this game. He is out 5 to 7 weeks, according to our buddy Billy at N.E.O's zone. He's out 5 to 7 weeks with a broken thumb. So they had a freshman quarterback coming in, and he will most likely be starting next week and probably therefore on out the rest of the year. But Mentor, just one of those games where just nothing went right for him. And again, suffering their worst loss since 2016, 47-7. But one good thing about a loss like that early in the season, week 4 is coming. So the schedule in week 4 for the GCC, we do have one conference game. Strongsville will travel to Solon. St. Ignatius will travel to Euclid. Toledo Waite will travel to Brunswick. Mentor will travel to Pennsylvania and play North Allegheny. And then Medina will travel to Stowe in a big, big game between those two teams. So, guys, the GCC, it's kind of hard to really read how things are going so far. You know, Medina was going to be good. Mentor, you thought there was an opportunity they would lose against St. Ed's, but not that bad. Euclid, we kind of thought was not going to have that good of an early start, and they're not. Can't get a read, though, on teams like Solon, Strongsville, and Brunswick. They're kind of up in the air. So it's going to be interesting as we get into conference play within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Man, that's a big loss. I mean, we'll really start to see what Mentor's quarterback depth looks like now with Jacob Snow not being available for the next couple of weeks. And now I think wandering eyes are looking to Medina and seeing if they'll be able to get their first conference championship in quite a while. If they can hold serve. And like you said, you got some wild cards out there. Euclid, they're young, but they have a lot of athletes. Brunswick's always a solid team that's running into some really good teams. Same with Solon and Strongsville, 2-1 with their only loss to a very good Avon League team. So overall, right now you got Mentor and Medina are still top of the class right now. Euclid's finding their footing, and then there's a big mishmash in the middle. The GCC meat grinder is about to really kick off here soon.
It's been interesting to follow these Brunswick games this past 3 weeks, as they've been very well contested on both sides. I don't think you could sit there and say Brunswick, perhaps maybe coming out early in the first week, maybe didn't have their footing. Brunswick's rounding into, I think, where they want to be right now going into conference play. And Ed, you make a very good point. Mentor now has to reach onto its bench, and that's something that they don't normally have to do. Number one, come off a big loss from St. Ed's this week, and then now they have to go not only out of conference but out of state and try to right the ship, and then take care of business very much so on the road with a freshman quarterback, and who knows what the status of those offensive linemen are. But I think you're right. I think right now Medina is probably sitting in the catbird seat waiting to capitalize on a minor Mentor misstep. But I don't put Brunswick anywhere out of this at all. I think Brunswick has an opportunity to take advantage of this and really build off of, a tough loss last week, despite what my scores say. A difficult loss, but they've been in every game, and they've been competitive in most every game. And, when you have really great individual efforts, especially against teams like Avon and against teams like Highland that have some really good players, they're able to kind of take that on and do and hopefully turn that around. But again, you say the GCC is a meat grinder, and that's what it is.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about that. And we'll see what happens in the Greater Cleveland Conference. Right now, Medina really has stepped up and been dominant. But now let's move to the Southwestern Conference, where they had
the original meat grinder. The original meat grinder of the conference.
That's right, man. 6-2 record with Southwestern Conference teams this week. and they played really well. We'll first start with Avon Lake. They win 31-14 over Columbian. They moved to 3-0, 1-2 Columbian, and it was Jake DePaul. He's normally a wide receiver here, but he had to step in for Jeremy Disick at quarterback. And the senior, he found Matthew Stewie on a touchdown pass, and he ran for 127 yards on 16 attempts. And also Jason Krakowski for Avon Lake. He carried the ball 34 times for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. Again, Avon Lake with a 31-14 win, and they stay atop in the Southwestern Conference. Now, moving on, it was Glenville traveling to Avon, and Avon with a 55-18 win. It was head coach of the Avon Eagles, Mike Elder, with his 200th win, and an impressive win as Sam DeTillio, who will be joining us here shortly. He had 188 yards and 4 touchdowns. It was Avon running back Jacorian Caffey at 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tim Conwell had 8 receptions, 99 yards, and 3 touchdowns for the Eagles in a 55-18 win. They now improved to 2-1. Glenville 0-3. Now, Berea Mid-Park, they hosted St. Francis de Sales, and they came away with a 34-17 win. They improved to 1-2 on the year. And our Player of the Week candidate, Deangelo Borders for the Titans, he had 294 total yards, and that included on special teams where Borders returned the opening kickoff. And also had went 93 yards for a score in the second half. He rushed 8 times for 160 and 2 more touchdowns in that second half. And it's the Titans getting their first win of the season, 34-27. North Ridgeville, they're still hot as they win 2 in a row, going 58-0 over Normandy. They're now 2-1. And how about this stat? 487 yards rushing for the Rangers. Dom Fargo led the Rangers with 182 yards and 2 touchdowns on the night. Andrew Ennis had 102 yards and a touchdown. The Rangers under Brian Morgan, now 2-1 on the season. Normandy falls to 1-2. Elyria, this is another team that, they switched conferences and might have been a shot in the arm for them, as now they improved to 3-0 with a 37-0 win over Lorraine, who falls to 0-3. It was a scoreless first quarter, and then 22 of its points came in the second quarter and 15 in the third quarter. It was Jazir Lucky for Elyria. He rushed 8 times for 70 yards. Andrew Palos with an 88-yard touchdown from Desmond Whitfield. And Whitfield, he had 2 passes all game, and 1 was a touchdown pass. But give credit to the Elyria defense. They shut down their Lorraine offense and win 37-0. They're now undefeated at 3-0 and atop the Southwestern Conference. Olmsted Falls, they head to Norwalk, and they end up getting a big win there as they win 35-25 over the Truckers. Olmsted Falls improves to 2-1. And that's a team that likes to run the football, and so does Norwalk. So a rushing game that went on the ground quite a bit, but it was Olmsted Falls outlasting the Truckers, who fall to 0-3. And the Truckers normally known for having a pretty solid squad, but Olmsted Falls back in at 2-1. Elyria Catholic, they're 2-1. They win with a 42-37 win over Midview. Midview really fought hard in this game. They fell to 0-3. But it was a game, it went back and forth really the whole game, and it was Levi Ellis, who was a player of the game last week. He had 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. But let's give credit to Mark Reed, who has stepped in for Midview at quarterback, and he just keeps getting better and better leading this offense. He was 22 of 32 for 274, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception on the night, but they do fall 42-37. Amherst taking on North Olmsted, and North Olmsted getting back in the Southwestern Conference and having some luck this year as North Olmsted wins 31-23 over Amherst. Amherst falls to 0-3, North Olmsted at 2-1. But it was running back Torrey Weatherspoon for Amherst. He had 3 touchdowns on the evening, a 70-yard run, a 48-yard run. He had a pick 6, went 65 yards for Amherst. They actually led 20-3 in the second quarter and 23-10 at half. But they were not able to stop the North Olmsted offense from scoring, and they came back in the second half and win 31-27. to 23. Now, the Week 4 schedule in the Southwestern Conference, here's the rivalry game. Avon Lake 3-0 takes on Avon at 2-1. And Avon Lake, a lot of their losses the last few years have come from the Avon Eagles. So Avon Lake going to try to stay undefeated as they travel to Avon. Elyria 3-0 right now overall. They travel to Berea Mid-Park, who's 1-2 on the season. Amherst 0-3. They're looking to get in their winning ways as they take on a pretty hot North Ridgeville team at 2-1. And then Olmsted Falls 2-1 will travel to 0-3 Midview. Standings right now, Avon Lake, Elyria, the only undefeated teams in the Southwestern Conference. Then you have North Ridgeville, Avon, and Olmsted Falls at 2-1. Berea Mid-Park at 1-2. Amherst and Midview at 0-3. And that's the Southwestern Conference. And some really good games and a 6-2 record overall for the Southwestern Conference. So they had a really good week. Just really impressed by North Ridgeville and especially Elyria, 3-0. You knew Avon Lake and Avon would probably be at the top. Avon had a tough loss early on there, but looking at these teams, I mean, Midview has been close, and especially losing their main quarterback Ethan Surdock, they're still competing at a pretty high level against a very good Elyria Catholic team. So let's see how it's going to shake out the rest of the season, but pretty competitive, and now we're getting into conference play here in Week 4.
Yeah, and real quick, props to Elyria. Like you said, Rob, 3-0. They couldn't ever quite get off the schneid in the GCC last year once they got into conference play. So it'll be interesting to see how they go into the Southwestern Conference play, if they can remain competitive, which I think they will, and see if they can notch some more victories and get higher in Division I, Region 1.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been, I like what teams have done, changing conferences a little bit. I think it makes sense, and I think you're seeing some different results with these teams. So I think it's a good thing. But now, without further ado, let's go to the one and only Ed Dick, who has the Great Lakes Conference. Let's start in the East Division. And Ed, a pretty impressive week. Although we saw Parma finally come down from the ranks of the unbeaten there.
Yeah, it was a good week for Great Lakes play. They had a couple of I don't believe they're officially cross division play games, but they were within the same conference. So we had a couple Thursday games. Oh, sorry, I had one Thursday game. That was a really good game. But we'll start with the East. We'll start with the East here. Sean was at the Buckeye and Copley game, and he'll talk a little bit more about that. But Buckeye comes away with a 27-26 win over Copley. It's a very tough win for the Bucks over the Indians. A very, very good win. With the win, Buckeye moves to 3-0. Holy Name came up against a buzzsaw in Riverside, and they lose 28-7. Javon Williams, their talented junior quarterback, did account for that touchdown. Holy Name falls to 1-2, and they're starting to search for some answers after a tough loss to Villa Angela St. Joe's last week, and now a loss to Riverside. We'll see if a little bit of conference play can get them back on track. Lakewood with a 55-3 victory over Fairview in an East versus West Division play. Running back Hakeem Corin ran 30 times for 322 yards and 7 touchdowns. There was a lot of chocolate milk going on there, folks. And
Chocolate milk.
He's the school record for single game rushing. He's got almost 800 yards in 3 games so far, folks. And he's got a ton of touchdowns to boot. Great game so far. And we'll hear from Coach Thome here in a little bit from Lakewood. Moving on, Normandy played a game against North Ridgeville. It did not go well for them. They lose 58-0. Unable to sustain the streak that they started last week. Parma also played a game against West Geauga. It did not go well for them either. They lose 43-0 to West Geauga. And then a very, very good game. Valley Forge salvaging it for the Parma schools. They come back from a 21-0 deficit at halftime to beat Rocky River
30-29. Kentrell Marks, 21 carries, 179 yards and 2 touchdowns to spur that rally. This is 2 weeks in a row the Valley Forge has rallied in the fourth quarter. This time they were successful and they were able to get the win. Moving on to the West Division. Bay Village, the Rockets get a 21-13 victory. Howie Alt ran 22 times for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns, covering 50 and 6 yards. Bay Village improves to 2-1 overall. Elyria Catholic had a real good game against Midview. They come away with a 42-37 victory. Levi Ellis, he is a habitual player of the week candidate. 17 carries for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tony Grasso had 8 tackles on defense. He had a pick 6 and a receiving touchdown. So some chocolate milk going his way too. With the win, Elyria Catholic moves 2-1 on their season. Fairview drops to 0-3. They were the only winless team in the conference. Lakewood improves to 3-0. As Rob mentioned earlier, Amherst was up 23-10 on North Olmsted going into the third quarter. North Olmsted comes back behind a Jared Kelly 25-yard touchdown run. North Olmsted wins 31-23 in an old Southwestern Conference game. North Olmsted improves to 2-1 overall. Rocky River falls to 2-1 with their loss to Valley Forge. Valley Forge is 2-1 as well. There are a couple of injuries on Rocky River's side. Both Beebe brothers ended up getting hurt over the course of this game. So Coach Wells did not have all of his full complement of players for the majority of the game. Nonetheless, a tremendous comeback by Coach Deangelis in the Battle of Mount Union alumni coaches that I happened to play with back in the day. So I know Coach Deangelis is very pumped up after that game for sure. And then finally, Dan LaRocco gets his first win of the season for Westlake, a 49-8 victory over Warrensville Heights. Will Ostrowski had 3 touchdowns, including a punt return for a touchdown that covered 47 yards. With the win, Westlake improves to 1-2 overall in their conference. My player of the week is Hakeem Corin. Again, 322 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns. Completely insane in this game. Set the school record for single game rushing. Coach Tom Thome is the coach of the week, also of Lakewood, getting Lakewood off to a 3-0 start. One of only 2 3-0 teams in Great Lakes between both divisions in the conference. Quick look at the schedule. Valley Forge is 2-1. They'll take on 2-1 Bay. This is cross division play, I think, as it officially counts in the standings. Buckeyes 3-0. They will travel to 2-1 North Olmsted. Holy Name is 1-2. They will travel to 2-1 Elyria Catholic. Normandy is 1-2. They will travel to 0-3 Fairview. Lakewood is 3-0. They're going to travel to 2-1 Rocky River. If I had to pick a game of the week, that's probably the one. Parma is 2-1. They will travel to 1-2 Westlake. And that is all we got for the Great Lakes Conference. We did talk a little bit about them ahead of time. So let's get over to my colleague, my compadre, my cohort, Sean Duffy, to get us through the Suburban League.
Thank you, Ed. And as always, a pleasure to be with everyone tonight, this lovely Tuesday night. We're going to start off talking about our spotlight game, which was the Copley Indians traveling to take on the Buckeye Bucks in lovely Medina, Buckeye. And I will say this, just to kind of give an overall experience. This was a game of early mistakes, corrections, and late mistakes by both teams. Buckeye really did not contain running back Preston Taylor from Copley. They were missing tackles. Blocks were being not shed, and again, fantastic runs, which we have video of. I was lucky enough to be there with one of the, and I quote Josh Jeffy, with one of the smoothest touchdown runs I've seen since we've been covering games. And I was just lucky enough to be in the corner of the end zone and recording and not following the other 10 games that I'm required to follow on a nightly basis. So I actually got that. But the thing here is Buckeye came back late in this game. And in fact, they were down at one point 27-14. We're able to rattle off 26-14, rattle off those last 2 touchdowns in the late fourth quarter for a comeback win. Hats off to Copley. They went in. They just, unfortunately, they had some miscues down the way. They couldn't sustain drives. They couldn't convert third downs. A lot of penalties were hampering them, putting them behind schedule. So what you saw was Buckeye maybe correcting some mistakes after halftime versus Copley making those mistakes at the crucial points of the game and allowing a team like Buckeye who can score. Ben Barnes was fantastic with his running ability. Last night they really leaned on him. And it was impressive to see that team in Buckeye galvanize to not get down and not allow themselves to be, defeated mentally. And that's a kudos to their coach. So Copley does lose this game 26-27. Buckeye again improves to 3-0. Elsewhere in the American division here, Twinsburg traveled into Aurora, and Aurora made a statement with a 30-0 win. Running back Aiden Henderson had 119 yards and three rushing touchdowns to get the 30-0 victory. St. Vincent St. Mary traveled to Barberton, and Barberton rode the back of Cam Macon, who had 160 yards on 12 carries and 3 touchdowns in this game, and led the Magics to a 34-27 victory over St. Vincent St. Mary. As we mentioned, Copley and Buckeye, that was a fantastic game, went down to the wire. Buckeye was able to hold home court 27-26. Cuyahoga Falls getting in the win column with a 41-6 victory over East Lake North. Highland and Brunswick, Aaron Filips, who we'll be talking to here, had 303 total yards, all-purpose yards, and 3 touchdowns on the game to lead the Hornets past a very, very good Brunswick team. This game came down to the wire. I was following this on the sidelines, kind of going back and forth. But very impressive with Highland able to, improve to 3-0 on the season. Revere played West Branch, and West Branch was a buzzsaw for them. It was 48-6 by the end of it. West Branch really did impose their will from the beginning of this game on Revere, there goes that. Roosevelt travels in and gets a big win as they travel to take on Ravenna, 27-9. And Talmadge, the Blue Devils, led by Ty Hurst, who went 20-28 and 248 yards and 3 touchdowns, and connecting with wide receiver Colin Dixon, who had 8 receptions, 152 yards, and 2 of those 3 touchdowns. So they get a big win over Coventry, 35-13. Moving on to the National Division, in Strongsville and Brecksville matched up in a Medina County, I guess we'd call it. No, kind of old Medina County. But Brecksville on the losing side of this one, 21-37. Hudson was able to extend their victory late in the game as a 17-10 victory over Warren Harding. My player of the week, Mark Wilson from Nordonia, ended up leading his team back from down late in the second half to a 28-20 victory. He had 3 touchdown passes on the evening. He has 9 touchdown passes in the first 3 games. This guy's efficient every week, running for my player of the week, and I finally gave him a little bit of love because, you're going into with a stat line, you got 9 touchdowns in 3 games. That's doing something against some pretty good competition in Mayfield and some of the other teams they played early on. It's impressive. And again, this is his first year as a starter, so his first year as a starter, he gets, a little bit of love for the player of the week out of the Suburban League. My next game here is North Royalton, and Zayden Abahamde had 93 yards and a touchdown, but he also contributed big time on the defensive side of the ball to help North Royalton hold off Perry in overtime, 24-21. This was a game that was back and forth for most of the night. Again, big defensive plays in North Royalton, led by Abahamde, but also on the ground, he's a big time factor in their offense. He's been on the radar for Player of the Week as well many times last year, and then good to see him back on that radar again. As Josh mentioned, Solon versus Stowe. Just to give you a little bit of insight here, Xavier Preston, 102 yards on 15 carries, 3 touchdowns against Solon in their win, 50-28. And again, Aurora versus Twinsburg, 30-0 there. That was a cross-division matchup. And unfortunately, Wadsworth and Medina. And as last week's guest, Drew Aller, he was very, very, very good against the Wadsworth Grizzlies. Not a lot to write home about if you're a Grizzly fan. but impressive nonetheless if you're a Medina Beast fan. Guys, that's everything I got for the Suburban League. We'll be posting the schedule here in the next day or so as to break down the what we're looking for Friday night, possibly selecting some games, some very interesting games. I know that Stowe and Medina game is interesting from not just from a show standpoint, but from an area and statewide top 10. We'll get more into that more later in the show.
Well, Sean, that's actually perfect timing.
That's what I do.
We want to welcome in now Highland quarterback Aaron Filips. And Aaron, thanks for joining us.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Well, Aaron, you had an impressive performance against Brunswick with a 28-23 win. Talk a little bit about that game.
I mean, going into it, we knew it was going to be a challenge. Obviously, they're a bigger school than us. We always take it very seriously whenever we play Brunswick, all these bigger schools before conference play, because, it's going to put us up for success when playoffs come on. And, we practice very hard. Iron sharpens iron throughout the week, and we came out, started off a little slow, but then, picked it up, and we're able to close out and get a good win.
Aaron,
you guys are,
go ahead, Sean.
I was just going to say, you've had a couple of games these past couple of weeks where they've been, tighter than maybe obviously you're a coach and you guys would like them. What are the adjustments that you guys are making or you're seeing? Is it something that you guys are seeing in the opponent, or is it more so cleaning up on the execution side on your guys' end that's allowing you to kind of take control of these games late?
Sorry, you broke up a little bit there. Can you repeat
it again? I apologize. I was just asking, some of these games have been pretty close, and I was just wondering if is it more of an execution issue that you guys are running into in the beginning of the game, or do you see something in the defense or in the opponent that you're having to make on-the-fly adjustments to throughout the game?
I mean, for sure, definitely at halftime, especially for Brunswick, we had to adjust a couple of things we were doing. A couple of things we were planning on, hitting them early on. They were stopping it pretty well. And but the thing is, a couple times, we've had a little bit of a penalty issue as well that have been stalling some drives, making us punt the ball more. And, that's been an emphasis these last couple of weeks, clean that stuff up. And, it's good to be making these mistakes and still being able to win rather than being able to lose. So, take it as a learning experience and, on next week.
Hey, Aaron, talk about, this, your 3 non-conference games are, you mentioned it. You played against bigger schools, and I was actually at the North Royalton game where you guys held on to win. And, Coach Gibbons really kind of honed in on the fact that, everyone sees you as a little team. Well, you're getting into conference play now, and that teams know you. So talk about some of the, kind of the changes to your guys' preparation that going into conference play that may be a little different than it was the first 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, for sure. Especially us, coming 3-0. Our mentality is 0-0 and treat each week like a new season. Got to go 1-0 this week. But, definitely we have a little bit of X on our back, and, teams are going to come after us. And, I think that's just going to make us better, more hungrier in practice, And us seniors are really doing a great job making sure everybody's locked in and, knows what's on the line.
Hey, Aaron, speaking of this week, you're going up against another 3-0 team in Talmadge, another set of Blue Devils, oddly enough. According to your, I know you guys are just getting ready to prepare and getting the game plan installed. Without giving too much away, what are some of the keys that you're looking for this week?
I know another big thing this week is our defense has to step up again. They got a pretty explosive offense. They like to throw the ball a lot. And also we talked about a little earlier offensively. Clean up the penalties, got to finish out these drives because I feel like, multiple times we left points up on the board that, could have shut out a couple of these games way earlier. And also, which was a problem last week, limit turnovers. We had 3 the first quarter or first 4 possessions. So if we do that, it'll set us up for success for sure.
Aaron, you mentioned your senior class, and that's a pretty good core group of guys. Can you talk a little bit about some of the guys you like playing with specifically? I'm an offensive lineman at heart, and you got to give some love to the big hog mollies up front because they're the ones protecting you. If you want to talk about some of the seniors, or even some of the players, the key players that you rely on offensively and defensively.
Oh yeah, for sure. I love the offensive linemen. They're a great group of guys, so tight knit. They always got their cookouts every Thursday. So they're always a joy to be around. And they'll put their bodies on the line for me. Dominic Kanapka, Patrick Flannery, those are two guys. Joey Scally, want to highlight. They really are do it all for the team kind of guys, and that's necessary to have the success that we've been having so far. And also skill-wise, Kevin Heichel, John Lima, they're also out there after practice every day with me throwing 15, 30 minutes. And me and Kevin have been doing that since sophomores, even before we've been starting. So, it's just a blast to be out there with them. And, we all really play together as one.
Well, that's awesome.
Well, we can't thank you enough for coming on and talking with us and taking time. I'm sure you're busy getting ready for Friday night. It's a little bit of a short week, but I'm sure you enjoyed having Monday off. So thanks for taking time to join us. Good luck the rest of the season. We'll be watching. And, again, thanks for coming on tonight.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Good luck.
That's Aaron Filips, the Highland quarterback. Want to thank him for joining us. And from one quarterback to another, we go to Avon, where quarterback Sam DeTillio will be joining us here. And there he is. Sam, thanks for taking time to join us tonight. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, no problem. How are you guys doing?
Good. Having a good show so far. It's jam-packed, and we always enjoy talking to you guys. And so far, you've just had a great season. Talk a little bit about this season. Coach Elder said it that the offense didn't have a lot of returning players coming back, but it's like you guys haven't skipped a beat. It's like you've known this offense for a long time. Talk about your success so far this season.
Yeah, so in Avon, we've always had that next man up mentality. So even last year, we've been ready, like we were ready to go in the game, but it's been all preparation since sophomore year, freshman year. We've all been getting ready for this moment. I think coming up and playing as a varsity level, we're mostly a new offense, but the thing is we've all been playing together. Last year, we were all playing JV together, even freshman year, 7th grade. Everybody that's coming up, we've all been playing together forever. So the chemistry's there, and I think that's one thing that's really helped us.
Sam, thanks for joining us today. This is the first year you're starting at the varsity level. Talk about how your preparation may have changed from going from JV to varsity once you got the nod before the Brunswick game that you were going to be leading the way for the Eagles this season.
Yeah, so I don't think that much changed really from JV to varsity because, as I said before, we're all ready. A couple of years ago, we knew Danny Zay got hurt. N.E.O had a broken thumb, so we were on our 3rd string in the playoffs. So all of us, we all prepare like we're playing. So JV is our time to show out. We act like it's a varsity game that we're getting ready for. So a lot of the same stuff.
Sam, again, thank you for joining us. I know it's a big week. It's Avon Lake week, and there's nothing. I think that I know you're supposed to take every game one game at a time. I know Coach Elder probably says it's just another game, but it's Avon Lake, and obviously it's going to be for some supremacy in the Southwestern Conference. You mentioned that you've been playing with these guys for a long time. Are there any guys that you connect with, maybe on the offensive line or in the skill position, that you have a really good connection with, or that maybe you found coming into this season that maybe you weren't expecting, but it's been a pleasant surprise?
Yeah, so our line really stepped up this season. It's a brand new O-line, so I played a lot with them last year on JV. So on the line, Mike Tertuzos, our center, he stepped up and he's a great leader, captain. He's really led our own line. And so I have a really good relationship with him now. Dylan Hergenroder, left tackle. So he was second string up until right before the season. Our starting tackle broke his wrist, and Dylan stepped up and has done a phenomenal job. So I have lots of respect for him and gratitude. Then skill positions, one of my favorite receivers, Ethan Holbrook. They call us the Ginger Angels. We just have a different kind of connection. So I love Ethan. I mean, we both grinded so hard in the off season because we wanted these starting varsity spots. So it's a dream coming true playing together with him. And then one receiver that I had that I didn't really get to play with a lot was Timmy Conwell. And coming up, I mean, he just makes you look good. I'll throw him a 10-yard bubble and he'll run it 50 yards for a touchdown. So playing with him is very fun.
Sam, Avon is well known as one of the top programs in Division II, and again, you're leading the helm of that. So, for a lot of the viewers out there, a lot of people that don't know what it's like, if there's pressure or the fun of it, talk about just going in every day and being the team leader, being the focal point of leading the offense on such a team that's supposed to win as many games as possible, that has state championship aspirations.
Yeah, it's so fun, of course, but there is a lot of pressure that comes with it. I mean, playing last year, I mean, you don't have too many eyes on you. Like, all eyes were on N.E.O, who did a great job, but then you step up and then all eyes are on you. Whole city of Avon is a big football community, so they're all watching you. Then you think at the state level, I mean, you're in the Final Four for the past couple of years in a row, so everybody's watching you there. So it's a lot of pressure, but I like the pressure. So, I mean, it's fun to play under, going and like being the QB1, as they say. I mean, just the whole team's behind me. So they make it easy. They make me feel comfortable back there. And I trust every one of those guys and every coach on that team. So it's fun,
Plus, he's got a sweet nickname. I mean, Ginger Angels. Come on now.
Like, it doesn't get any
awesome. Better. That's amazing.
John, we're not calling you that, buddy. We're not calling you that. So
you got to call me Ginger Angel. I think it's my new. I can't steal it from him. So I got to get another one. Sam, one question I would have to ask, because Ed's not on the call. One question, and we all know that Ed loves the X's and the O's, but he doesn't want you to give too much away. So without giving too much away, big game against Avon. What are some of the keys you guys have focused in on early in your preparation so far?
So I think discipline. Discipline is going to be our biggest thing this week. I mean, we saw week 1, we were really disciplined, went well for us. Week 2, we fell apart. We had some loose ends. So that week after that game, that next week of practice, we were dialed in. And then I think it really showed against Glenville. So this week being Lake Week, everybody is like super focused, super excited. And so I think going into this week, we're going to be super disciplined, and that's how we're going to come out with the W.
Sam, talk a little bit about Coach Elder. He got his 200th win. I mean, what did that mean for you and the players, to get him that win? Because he's been at Avon for a long time, and he's done a great job and really has built something special there in Avon. How satisfying was it for you and the other players to give him that 200th win?
It feels really good to give somebody who's that deserving what they get. So, I mean, as he always says, and as I told the people after the game who asked me, wins and losses are great, but he really cares about us growing up and being great men going out into the world. So I think it's nice to give him what he deserves. He does a great job with the team. And I mean, the whole coaching staff, they come prepared. I mean, he puts us in line, and I think it shows.
Absolutely. Yeah, he does a great job, and you can see all the joy of playing the game of football from all you guys. And you guys all get along. You've played a long time together. I'm sure it's a special season for you, especially playing with all your teammates. And we want to congratulate you on a great season so far, and we look forward to seeing you the rest of this season.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Good luck
Sam.
to you, Ginger Angel.
Thank you.
You knew that was coming. He couldn't hold on. And you know what, Sam? I think he wants to be part of that group, but
Yeah.
I'll have to talk to Ethan about it. We're considering Luke Hamilton right now.
Okay. All
As a
right.
trio, so we might be able to add one more.
Okay. All
I'll
right.
discuss it.
I'm in my late 30s and I have arthritic knees, so I'm probably not going to be an angel, more like a detriment to your abilities. But you know what? I like to be a part of things.
Thanks, Sam. We appreciate you coming on tonight.
Thanks, Sam. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, that's Sam DeTillio, the Avon Eagles quarterback. I want to thank him for joining us. And coming up here shortly, we'll have Lakewood Rangers head coach Thome. And guys, a few really solid athletes and great kids coming on our show here tonight. And Coach Thome, what a year they've had. They're 3-0 this season after going into the Great Lakes Conference. Let me spit that out there. But congratulations to them so far. And I'm looking forward to talking to him and seeing what happened and what changes they've made there in Lakewood, because you really see the team focused going in. I mean, a great win against a very good Bay team. And they continue. Fairview and Parma had a clash, and they just went into Fairview and dominated in that game. So it's going to be fun to talk to Coach Thome here shortly.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Those two guys, Aaron Filips and Sam DeTillio, they're QB1s for sure, and they have that mentality, Josh, that I'm just there doing the job. They give their offensive line some love. Obviously, being a center and a left tackle myself, he said, Sam, shout out a center and his left tackle, which is smart, I think. You protect the blind side, you protect the guy snapping the ball, give him a little bit of love, it's going to be good. But that's one thing about both these guys that I found very interesting, was that their preparation and how much time they've had in that system. Both of them, Aaron Filips under Mike Gibbons and Sam DeTillio under Mike Elder in that program. I mean, you're looking at two guys that have come up in those programs and are flourishing because they're given the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly, Sean. You bring up good points, and to that point, I was the receiver in high school, so it's also a good job to mention your receivers to keep them happy, because you don't want them, John, give me the ball when the time comes. But no, both those guys, you can tell, have grown up in the system, and we've talked to numerous coaches. John Hunick early in our preview show earlier, or I should say last month, talking about building that youth program. And as you're in that youth program, by the time these guys are juniors and seniors, they know the offense. They know what to expect of the program and being that QB1, quote unquote. So it makes it easier for the coaches to kind of move on to other aspects of the team, and in turn having their quarterbacks also be an extension of them on the field. So there's no question of what they're going to be expecting when the play is called and what the defense is going to look like that they're facing against.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we'll have Coach Thome on, but we'll also go over the N.E.O. Zone High School Sports Top 10. We'll go over, and we'll also have our polls coming up that give the player and the coach of the week here on Sports on Tap. And want to thank everyone every week. Those go up on Sunday, and then and then you can go vote on @SOT Podcast, and also our website. Go to www.sportsontappodcast.com where you can vote, and you also can see what games we were at. We have a lot of video highlights, and Sean did a great job with some really clutch video, especially if you want to see that Copley run, because that was sensational.
That was a fantastic run, and I'll tell you this right now, I could not do it again if I tried. It was simply, I had a good feeling about the play, and I was trying to make sure that my phone was able to video record. And I swear to God, if you would have let that go a little further, you would have heard me go, "Oh my God, I got the whole thing!" after when I pressed stop. So thankfully, you didn't hear me go crazy like a little girl when I actually did a good thing.
Sean, I think now you have the thumbs of a ginger angel with your phone. So just keep on keeping on, my friend. So you're good.
Listen, I am not gonna join that club unless officially invited. I want some sort of, again, you know my feeling. If I'm going to be invited to something, I want a sash of some sort. You can't call
you and the
you know,
sash. I thought we lost.
You can't be called Mr. Football and not get a sash. I'm sorry. That I don't write the rules, bro. I just follow them.
Hey, speaking of our polls, they just ended. If you guys would like to go over for those real quick.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah,
We'll
sure.
start.
Do the polls.
We'll actually start off with the G&G Fitness Coach of the Week and that one. And just to rehash, the nominees were Mike Gibbons of Highland, Lou Sereno of Strongsville, John Hunick of Berea Mid-Park, and our next coming guest, Thome of Lakewood. And in this one, with 46.3% of the votes, it went to Highland head coach Mike Gibbons. So
nice.
Congratulations to him. All these guys well-deserved, as you know. So we will move on to the player. Now, the RRT Player of the Week, I thought, in just my opinion, was a little more difficult because there was some really great performances. So the nominees for the RRT Production Week 3 Player of the Week went to Deangelo Borders of Berea Mid-Park, Joel Capasso of the wide receiver from Solon, Mark Wilson of Nordonia, and Hakeem Quarren from Lakewood. And this was a little bit closer, but with 59.8% of the votes, it went to Berea Mid-Park, Deangelo Borders with all-around performance. Yeah, I think our voters have to spread the love around because, like Drew Allard could be habitual, and some of the other players, Hakeem Quarren could be there with the performance he had, 7 touchdowns. You got to give it up for them, but. So congratulations to both of those guys. You win some notoriety from us, from Sports on Tap. So congratulations again, right, Rob? Like you said, these polls start off on Sunday. So if you do have any nominees that you'd like to nominate, hit us up at Twitter at SOT Podcast.
Yeah, we had the polls up on the screen while you were talking, and that's, it's pretty impressive. I mean, we didn't get the votes. We did last week. Was crazy how many votes we got, but still a good amount of votes. And Borders had a great week. I mean, he had almost 300 yards of total offense, including. I mean, the guy does it all with returning kicks. He runs the football. He can catch it. So I mean, if we did fantasy football for high school football, that's a guy that would have some major points. Let's put it.
I'm sure it's out there, Rob. Don't put it past.
Yeah, I'm sure it's out there. I'm not going to do that.
I'll tell you what, Hakeem, he would be my first running back off the board, man.
I mean, if we're doing this year, perhaps. But I know my thoughts were always the human cheat code, Jake Rogers from Highland.
Yeah, and guess where
that guy scored points in bunches.
Yeah, he did. He was electric. Every time we saw him, he was making plays. But it's a lot of fun to see these polls, and like I said, go to our website, sportsontappodcast.com, where you can vote there and see who the nominees are. But go to our Twitter at SOT Podcast, and that's where you can vote.
And let's get these athletic departments on Twitter to retweet this, so these players and the students and the parents that support these kids and these coaches, these teams, get it out there that the polls out there. So let's get on these athletic directors out there that have these school athletic accounts on Twitter to get us retweeted. We do have some time, fellas. You want to quickly go over Billy Costco's top 25?
Top 10,
he does have top 25 that he posts on his Twitter page at N.E.O Zone HS. We will go over the top 10 real quick. Number 10, Aurora did not move in. They're still in the top 10. They are 3-0. Massillon, Washington did not move any spots. They are at number 9. Avon Lake stays the same at number 8. And then next, Avon number 7. So after this Friday, we're going to have some movement there. Yeah. I think Stowe represents the Suburban League. They are at number 6. Chardon, the Hilltoppers, are at number 5. They are 3-0. Menor did drop 2 spots in his top 10 to number 4 with the loss against St. Ed. Archbishop Hoban stayed the same. They are 2-1. They are 3rd. Medina, because of the Menor loss, moved up 2 spots to number 2. They are 3-0, and the top spot, of course, is St. Edward. They are 3-0. Some other teams looking at the rest of the top 25 that are for us. Hudson comes in at number 16. They moved up 1 spot. Olmsted Falls, with the win, moved up 3 spots to 19. Highland with a huge jump. They actually are number 20. They are 3-0. I did see some Highland fans getting on Billy a little bit to give him a little more respect.
And nothing to do with it, Billy. Nothing to do with it.
And
if
they keep doing that, they will. Barberton was new into the top 25. They are number 23. Brunswick was the big loser of the week. They actually dropped 9 spots after their loss to Highland, but they are still in the top 25 at number 24. On the outside looking in, we do have a couple teams. Nordonia, they are 3-0. And also, how about this? The Pioneers of Elyria.
Nice.
They are on the cusp looking in. So if they get another victory, they might be in that top 25. So, again, Billy puts these out every Monday. I believe he's going to be at he's going to cover the game that we just talked to Sam about, Avon Lake Avon. So, make sure you follow him at N.E.O Zone HS on Twitter. He's going to have, just like we do, in-game highlights and updates. He's got some great information on there. So really happy to be partnering with him this year to give us his rankings.
Yeah. Low-key sneaky game this week, guys, is going to have to be Highland and Talmadge. Those are some teams that can really position themselves well. And you look at this American division: Aurora, Barberton, Highland, Talmadge. Copley's right there. They got a great running game. You could see some serious firepower coming out of this American division. Same with the national division. But, when you got Aurora, you got Barberton playing well, and now you have Highland doing what they're doing, and now a team like Talmadge and Copley that are right there. That's going to be interesting, and I think that's going to be a low-key, sneaky game to pay attention to. Could set up a lot for the Suburban League going forward.
Well, without further ado, now he has a 3-0 record as he takes over the Lakewood Rangers. Head coach Thome joining us, and what a season he's had so far with the big wins early on. And we'll wait. There he is. Hey, Coach, how are you?
There he is.
Hey guys, how we doing?
Good. How are you tonight?
Good.
Well, thanks for taking time to join us. I'm sure. You're busy prepping for the week. It's a short week, but let's talk about the Lakewood Rangers so far this year. 3-0, and from our polls each week, I think you have a pretty good running back. That's running the football. I mean, 7 touchdowns. I mean, that's crazy. Talk a little bit about your team and the success you've had this season.
I think the major difference for us is we've got kids that are balled in. Consistency starting in February in the weight room. Every head coach is going to tell you the same exact thing, but it's true. Kids they want to go to practice. They don't want to go home. They're in the locker room. They're in the weight room. We have that family culture going right now. Kids don't care if Hakeem's running the ball, if Jay's running the ball. We have Tico Jones, who's got Division I offers as a tight end, that offers to go to left tackle because he knows we're going to be better if he plays left tackle. So all of that adds into why we're having some success right now. And we've got receivers that are being, selfless. They don't care if they get the ball. They want to block. I think they're finally understanding that winning's a lot more fun than individual stats.
Definitely. And, Coach, it's been impressive watching you guys just at the beginning of the year because, for a long time, Lakewood's program has been, in the Southwestern Conference. And we talk about it every year. The meat grinder that is the Southwestern Conference. I mean, you get one non-conference game, and then you're right in there, and before you look up, it's halfway through the season, and you're kind of in that momentum. Have you noticed a little bit more of a rededication? You talked about a rededication. Is with your guys? Do they enjoy playing maybe newer teams than they're used to? Maybe newer competition. Does that kind of psych them up a little bit more than they, having to play the Avon Lake every year and then things like that?
Absolutely. We have the West Shore program in Lakewood. So Bay Village, Westlake, and Rocky River actually go to our vocational school. So our guys know those guys. They go to a lot of our kids work in Rocky River. I think half my team works at Chick-fil-A or Raising Cane's. I'm not plugging anything, but
right.
But they
I'm not plugging it either, but I'm telling you, they got the sauce. So we'll leave it at that.
I would say the major difference, though, football-wise, is my 2 years in the Southwest, we weren't able to develop kids up front. The Avon Lakes, Olmsted Falls, they were stacked up front, and we're playing freshmen against grown men. And it was like week in and week out, there was a Division I left tackle. They had a DN going somewhere. And you know, if you look at our offensive line, half of those kids have been playing since they were freshmen. They were playing against the Avons and the Olmsted Falls, and they've got a lot of football experience underneath their belt. They finally have size. They finally were in the weight room. They matured. So everyone knows it starts up front. And I think we're pretty talented on both sides of the ball up front. Hakeem's going to get all the credit, but our players of the week have been our two guards, our center. You know, they're the ones that are leading the way. And Hakeem just gets the credit because he's who everyone sees in the stat book.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, thanks for joining us tonight. And we don't get, we don't talk to many coaches that have, this to deal with. And I'm sure you get the question a lot. You share a city with one of the best, football programs in the state with St. Edward. And now you with your season you're having, it's the football capital of the state with both teams being very successful, but talk about, that challenge of having to trying to keep those kids within that program and trying to establish that winning program at Lakewood, which has been a little difficult in the past. And just try to, just talk about how that's been a challenge that you've had to, deal with.
Well, when I got the job, the very first two kids I wanted to talk to were Tico Jones and Hakeem Karan. I didn't even go to the high school kids. You go in your middle school, you recruit those kids. I've been pretty fortunate that I think in my 4 years, we've lost about 3 kids to Eds. The one kid was a legacy. He was never coming here. And, the other 2 kids, they would have been probably solid football players for us. I only coach the kids that are here. All right. I don't care if they go to Eds. I don't care if they go to Ignatius, Westlake. I coach the kids that are here. And I don't focus on football. We focus on the classwork. I mean, we've been all Ohio academically every year I've been here. We got a lot of kids in Lakewood that struggle. That they don't go home to, the typical traditional family. So we make sure our kids eat. We make sure our kids go to school. We make sure that they're doing the right things. We've got good kids this year. The difference between this year and some of the other years is we might not have as much talent. We've had some impressive talent the last couple of years. We've got really good kids, and I'm proud of the kids that are on our football team right now.
That's fantastic, Coach. And one of the things that I gathered from, watching from afar is the atmosphere of fun that you guys are having with. Obviously success is a lot more fun than not having success, right? But can you talk a little bit about how you mentioned earlier that culture, that family culture? Did it take a little while to instill that, or is that something that you're constantly working on and tweaking as you go?
I'm a broken record. The kids hear me all the time. All I talk about positivity. My first year there, things weren't going great. I'm still as positive as you can be on the sidelines. These kids don't understand that, negativity, that's when, things happen, the dominoes. We were talented last year. We were talented my second year, but one bad thing would happen and then the whole ship would sink. Our second year in the Southwest, I believe 7 of the 10 games, we went into halftime. It was either tied or we were maybe down by a point, by a score. But then in the third quarter, the dominoes would fall. And that's why the Bay Village game was really telling. Bay scored actually a touchdown late in the second quarter. And then we stopped them and turned the ball over and they got a field goal. So they went up 10 points. In years past, that was the game. We would have just packed it in. And then the kids just grinded it out and they toughened up and, we ended up winning that game. And that was our first away game. I hadn't won an away game in my 4 years here. So that had to be the first game in 5 years that we won on the road. And we spotted them 10 points. We turned over the ball way too many times. You don't win many games when you turn the ball over 6 times. But defensively, we didn't let them in. And that just shows the mental toughness that they have this year versus, in years past. And we played Avon Lake and Olmsted Falls. We played them tough in the first, second quarters, but we never had the mental toughness to go the distance.
Yeah, and Coach, talk a little bit about the impact and the fun you're having. you said it yourself that it is obviously it's fun when you're winning on the field, but to have an impact on these kids' lives and kind of guide them in a direction so they go off and be successful after high school, but they can enjoy the game of football where maybe it's a getaway for them, and now they're having success and they're really coming together as a football team. How much fun are you having coaching these kids, and how are you enjoying seeing them successful not only off the field but on the field too?
It's been really, it's really enjoyable. I tell my wife, like, it's almost like I'm a real coach again. Like, I got people talking to me. I'm a good football coach again. I'm not a good football coach again. I laugh at that. You guys asked me to interview. I did an interview on Sunday. They got all these polls on Twitter. I'm not a good football coach. I got good kids. All right. I got good kids that buy in, that want to come to practice. They want to go to school. I'm big. If you don't show up to class, you're not playing. In my 3 previous seasons, I've benched supposedly some of our better players because they don't go to class. And, I really truly believe that if you're not a good person, you're not going to be a good football player. And, our kids have bought into that. And it took 2-3 years for them to buy into it because you know how high school kids they got one person in this ear, they got another person in that ear. And I just try to stay consistent. My message has not changed in 4 years. I'm going to love you guys no matter what. I'm going to be hard on you. And all I ask you to do is show up every day and be positive. And that really has been my MO ever since I started coaching. And these kids have really bought into it this year. I do think COVID played a role into it. I think these kids were tired of the negativity, tired of the lack of consistency. Especially in our school building, we were remote, we were out. And finally just having stability. These kids gravitate to stability. They like getting up, they like going to school, they like going to practice, they like a routine. A lot of kids will tell you they don't like that, but successful kids like a routine. And they like a coach that is pretty, they stay to the track of that.
Absolutely. And not to take anything away from you.
Definitely paying off.
That's a good coach, especially when you're not afraid to discipline and favor certain kids. I mean, you see it all the time in certain areas, trying to, because they're a superstar, they might be a little more lenient. That's the sign of a good coach, and I'm sure you get respect back from the kids, which is important.
Well, I think something I'm kind of happy about this week is obviously we're blowing up on Twitter and all that stuff. And I'm just telling everyone, we're the weekly flavor. If we don't go out and perform against Rocky River, no one's talking to us. So we just need to stay in our huddle, and everyone that's been with us since June 1st. And the kids have gravitated towards that. They're really not listening to the outside noise. People have been DMing them and the Snapchat and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, just come back to work. We had a good day of practice today. Kids, obviously they want to be loved up. Everyone does. But they put the hard hat on today. And I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't know what team I was going to get at halftime at Bay. I didn't know what team I was going to get on a Labor Day practice because we all know how that could go. We didn't have a kid miss. And, they're locked in, they're focused, and they understand this is the biggest game or the most competitive game Lakewood's played since 2003.
Well, then that leads me to my next question that I have to ask because our other guy that's on our podcast, Ed, is not here to ask it. One question. It's early on in the week. You got a big opponent, Rocky River. You're on the road. What are some of the keys that you're starting to focus on a little bit from maybe a motivational standpoint or a team standpoint going into this week? Again, like you said, you got eyeballs on you now. Is it focus out the distractions, or is there something that your team needs to do game-wise going into this week?
It's funny. These kids have never really had success. I feel like they're handling it well. They just need to understand if you don't go to work, all this is gone. You know what I mean? If we don't get off on that bus with Rocky River, because they're talented. They got some skilled guys that can compete with any team in this area. The BB boys are crazy good. Number 10 is an awesome quarterback. They've got 2 tight ends that are physical. They're big. Our guys know what's ahead of them. It feels good to win. And they know that they didn't win by just showing up. They won because of hard work. And, we stress that there's not a school in high school football or in college that just shows up and wins. All right, maybe take Alabama out of the equation.
Yeah,
no one else can just show up and win. So, and these guys are grasping that. They know that we've got some kids with bumps and bruises. This is the first time in my career at Lakewood they actually go and see the trainer consistently every day. They get treatment, and then they don't miss practice. A couple other years, someone gets a bumps or bruise, I don't see them for a couple weeks.
Well, Coach, this was a fantastic interview. We appreciate you taking the time. We know it's a busy week. You got a lot of things going on, and we really appreciate you taking the time with us. Good luck. We'll definitely be paying attention because I think you got a good thing going on at Lakewood right now. A lot of excitement around that program, but a lot of positivity, I think, is the big thing. And I know from my perspective and from Rob and Josh and even Ed, we're really, really psyched to see Lakewood doing well. It's always fun to follow, the Southwestern Conference and the Great Lakes Conference as we do. So it'll be fun. It'll be a fun GLC matchup Friday night.
Yep. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you coming on, and we'll probably see you on Friday night because that is going to be one of our featured games.
Yeah, one of us might be roaming the sidelines on Friday night.
It sounds like you and 5 other organizations.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
Just, hey, it's Thome. It is not
Thome.
Thome.
Oh.
It's not Thome. Yeah, because
sorry.
everyone wants to call and say, hey, how's Jim doing? I don't know. All right.
Well, Tom.
Guys, have
All
a
right,
good
well, there goes that question.
Thome.
Thanks, Coach Thome. Thank you, buddy.
Thome,
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. All right. Well, now that I called him Thome, I think the whole interview. But Thome, now we know. But
Coach Thome, you don't play. And that's a great coach there.
Yeah, and you could tell that he understands what distractions means.
Yep.
He could tell he's the game of the week now. Like he said, his team's the flavor of the week, and I think that's the message that he's reeling off to his team as, hey, listen, if you enjoy it, then keep working hard, and it can keep happening. But if you slack off just a little bit and lose, you're not going to be that flavor of the week. So,
Absolutely.
but I think I could speak for, on behalf of us. We've been covering Lakewood now for about 4 or 5 years now since we've been doing this. And it's just like you said, Sean, it's nice to see them finally starting to have some success that they really haven't had in the past.
And I think, I know he won't say that, but Coach Thome probably is a driving force in that success. And you could tell that it's a positivity thing. It's a mentality, Josh, and you're right. It can all be gone in an instant, and he's not. It's not too big for them right now, and that's the fun thing about this team right now. And I think the fun thing about that matchup is Rocky River is a fantastic team, and they're a great team. And I think what you're seeing now is a great Lakewood team, and this could have the beginnings of one of those newly created rivalries going into the GLC. And I think it's going to be something interesting to watch and possibly walk up and down the sidelines with 9 other people that are covering this game because Lakewood's a very popular town. And Rocky River's the same way. And these two teams are probably, I would argue the tops in the GLC, East or West, with some other caveats there. So it's going to be interesting Friday night.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And looking forward to covering Lakewood and Rocky River. That's a big game, and excited to cover them. And Lakewood, we've always tried to cover one of their games per season, and this year, is a little bit different than the past year. So excited to cover them, and you can go to our website at sportsontap.podcast.com and figure out where we're going to be, or on Twitter at SOT Podcast. So guys. Just a great show. We were jam-packed. Want to thank everyone for watching. We had a good amount of people watching, and it was a lot of fun tonight. Busy, but a lot of fun, that's for sure. It's always fun to talk to the players and coaches.
Absolutely. And before I go, I have to say thank you very much to the Medina Buckeye Athletic Department. They did a fantastic job Friday night, getting that game hyped up, ready to go. They took care of yours truly as I walk around aimlessly and lost. They pointed me in the right directions. At one point, I thought I had to stay on the outside of the fence. They said, no, you're on the sideline, so I could actually walk around. That's how I was able to get that sweet video. But again, thank you so much to Medina Buckeye. They do a great job, and any athletic department that allows us to come and be a part of their game, their Friday night activities is a fantastic. And it was my first game back with actual like full attendance, Josh, and it was fun. Like it was fun.
It's different. It's different to the fact that it wasn't like that last year, and everyone who's a part of high school football knows it was different last year. But just to get back to, you forgot how it was, and just having that band in the band and everything like that, it's just it makes a difference for sure.
It was a good time, and of course the student section was crazy.
Yeah,
especially because they were coming back to win that game, and they were hyped, man. They were hyped. So fun times. Hopefully we have another one this week. We got Lakewood and Rocky River, and then we'll see if we can get out to another game. If not, that'll be our spotlight game of the week. We'll figure that one out and let you guys know. But guys, that was a jam-packed show. I feel like a legit sportscaster right now.
Yeah, thanks again to Highland quarterback Aaron Filips for joining us, Avon quarterback Sam DeTillio, and head coach of the Lakewood Rangers, Thome, not Thome, Thomes.
I know.
So thanks for all of them for joining us.
Yeah, and any coaches or players, if we say your name wrong, don't be afraid to tell us because we want to make sure we get it right.
He didn't allow it to distract him, Rob. He moved on with the interview and didn't allow it to distract him. If that's not a metaphor for the season of the Lakewood Rangers, I don't know what is.
He's a veteran, that's for sure. And we had some definite Lakewood fans that were watching the interview and had a comment there. So,
how many of them were yelling at us that you were pronouncing his name wrong?
I know. Oh, but
we all did it. It's not as though it's fault. It was bound to happen. I mean, we do it once a week. I haven't gotten the scores right since we started the scores. So please let me know.
Yeah, and if you're a school out there that has stats from your school and you want to send them to us, it's sportsontappodcast@gmail.com. Obviously, we'd like to get the names correct, so if you have pronunciations of the games as well. Wow, that was nice. Josh Jeffy.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Whoa.
Jeez.
Whoa.
He set up the home office here and stuff happened, so you guys got a good look at my ceiling.
Hey.
You
never know what can happen on the show. That's the beauty of a live show, guys. I mean.
Yeah, right.
Sure. Yeah,
maybe
the beauty.
You can edit that out on YouTube once it's on there.
Well.
Yeah, I also edited out my vacation schedule that somehow populated onto the scores because my work computer doesn't work.
Yeah, Sean.
Please do that.
It's crazy that you're off almost every day of the week. I don't know how you get that, but that's
guys. I don't know what happens. I check the scores 3 times before I save it, and I just for whatever reason I missed one, and it was the Brunswick score. So,
man, what are you gonna do?
But again, if I'm gonna miss a score, it's the Brunswick score because I know you guys are gonna correct me because you guys talk about the Brunswick team every time.
Well,
you love them.
Do you know what? We'll just have some goals for next week. I mean, you're almost there.
Almost there, buddy.
Almost.
One of these days. We got what?
Just one.
11 more weeks of football that we can do this, so I'm bound to get it right eventually.
That's right, man. Well, great job, guys. And week 4 is coming up. So check our website. Check our website. Check our Twitter @SOT Podcast. We're also on Instagram and Facebook. And you can check to see where we're going to be at. If you want to be involved with the show, sportsontappodcast@gmail.com. We always have a good time, so always looking to add some solid talent. All right, guys. Any last words before I mute us and say adios?
Ginger Angels unite.
Have a good night, everyone. I'm gone after that.
Have a good night, everybody. All right, for Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, I'm Rob Troutman. We'll see you next Monday night at 7:30 for week 4. We're Sports on Tap. It's our Ohio High School football coverage. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.